ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी नमोऽस्तु ते व्यास विशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. Welcome back to all of you to this series on Bhagavad Geetā every Wednesday morning in India. Of course, every Tuesday evening in the West. We had completed Chapter 2 by end of June, and we took a break in July 2021. Today, on August 4 in India, we are all set to begin this very popular Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. It's popular because the emphasis is on being active in the world, doing good things, and what makes it spiritual is, even as we do good work, we are advised not to seek anything in a selfish manner. In other words, nishkama karma. Human life begins in sakama karma. Sakama karma, action with personal desires, wanting something for oneself, either very grossly on the plane of the senses or in subtle ways, such as emotional gratification or gratification of the subtle ego. Even when somebody says, I have renounced everything, I am so humble, you see, I have no ego at all, you understand, etc. If that person saying so gets a certain subtle pleasure, then that is also sakama. Those who really let go of ego do not make an issue of it. Therefore, though it is easier said than done, the emphasis on nishkama karma is the hallmark of this third chapter. And today we shall do a preview of the whole chapter, having 43 verses. This chapter indeed is a wonderful, marvelous bouquet of flowers, where the flowers are no other than beautiful, inspiring ideas, insights into our human life. The chapter begins with two verses that are Arjuna's question to Sri Krishna. And during these times, Adi Shankara Acharya noticed that Arjuna's question itself was misunderstood by a lot of people who were very attached to karma, and karma only. Sri Shankaracharya mainly faced karma kandis across the length and breadth of India in those times. At some places he, of course, has referred to Buddhism and dismissed Buddhist views, but mainly in his Bhashya, we find he makes it very clear that he has all the respect, all the reverence for karma that is prescribed by the Vedas, but that is not the be-all and end-all of life. The Vedas do have something further to karma, that is jnana. And if you do not open up to that jnana, your knowledge of Vedas is limited. And what is more, your life would never come to its final destination, the true fulfillment of moksha. Of the four purusharthas, artha, kama, dharma, and moksha, karma, which is glorious, no one denies, can bring lot of dharma to us, punya to us, religious merit to us, chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind to us, but no amount of karma can bring moksha. The charama purushartha, the ultimate goal of human life, is moksha, liberation, mukti, which is attained by jnana that is taught in the Upanishads, that is Vedanta, which is part of Vedas, but it is the final message. So Adi Shankara goes into quite a lengthy introduction to this third chapter, which we shall definitely see every sentence of it. However, today we shall take a preview of the entire chapter. In his introductory bhashya, he especially dismisses the view that Gita prescribes or advises carrying karma and jnana together. The Sanskrit word for that carrying together is samuchaya. Samuchaya. Samuchaya means never give up karma. Carry karma rituals, or in modern times, where are varieties of mundane activities where we earn, where we benefit, and a part of us, in a corner of ours, we feel delighted. Even retired people who have perhaps crossed the age of 72, suppose engage themselves somewhere, and there are some financial returns, or there are some returns in the mundane world. In a corner of their heart, they feel happy. Not that they really need that money or some other benefits, but it's called karma vasana. Karma vasana is not just about doing and getting some results, but being attached to it. And lastly, to make it very clear, self-esteem depends upon how much we earn, whether we earn anything at all every month, how much we are valued in the society, how we are looked at by people, etc. When once there is that sense of, I am somebody, all right, please don't imagine I have gone to Vedanta because I have failed in everything. No, I am somebody. I am a successful person. Even now my net worth is so much. Even now, I'm earning a little. Though my children say, Papa, Mama, stop working. I don't. I earn. I bring something home. All that is nothing wrong by itself, but the psychology behind it. If the mindset behind it makes the man or the woman feel that without earning a little, I would be a zero. When I earn something, I am somebody. That is not acceptable in the final phases of spiritual practice. So this advanced teaching Let me be very clear. Doesn't say you should not earn, but whether you earn or do not earn, whether you have a position in the society or not, you must die to the idea that my worth, value depends upon my bank balance, my monthly or annual earning, or my lecturing somewhere, my doing some work somewhere. On that, my self-worth rests. That is to be let go of. Work, earn if you like, but deep in your heart, if you are able to intuitively see work or no work, earning or no earning, social esteem or no esteem in the eyes of the society, irrespective of all that, I am certain truth, I am certain existence, I am certain Sat Chit, which is ever free. If you are able to intuitively see, not just speak the words over a cup of tea, if you really apprehend, if you really visualize that and feel, yes, now I am able to understand. Nothing matters. I am fine. I am free. For that to happen, Adi Shankara uncompromisingly says, you have to let go of your clinging attachment to karma. That is not the topic of the third chapter, though I am going to show in about 5 verses scattered over this third chapter, pointers are supplied to that advanced state of mind. The main theme is the state of mind where you think of yourself as a doer, as a go-getter, as somebody worth something, and the difference is, in olden days, the focus was on what do I get. Now the focus is shifting on what I give. So focus on giving and not on receiving, while there is a sense of doership, kartru bhava. So why is this chapter so popular? With 2 verses in the mouth of Arjuna asking a question to Sri Krishna, and towards the end, again Arjuna asks in the 36th verse a question. Why does man commit sin? A man or woman, a human being, papam kim charati, kasmat charati. Why does a human being commit sin? And that portion itself is so valuable to everyone. When one looks at one's own life, that question which is couched in the religious language, why does man commit sin, actually can be appreciated in so many ways. Why is there disorder in my life? Why am I unhappy? Why do I make people also unhappy? Why is there certain unending dissatisfaction in me? Why do I feel lost? Why do I wonder what this life is all about? 100 such forms of inner turmoil, if not agony, are all implied by that one question by Arjuna. Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi. Not wanting to hurt, I end up hurting people. Not wanting to mess up my day, one more day of mine gets messed up. Not wanting to be ambitious, once more I throw my weight around and push all others aside and stand on the stage trying to look tall and high. Why do I do that? Why do I push myself aggressively, disrespecting the sentiments of people and so on? All that is implied. Anichannapi papam kena prayuktaha karoti. And then Sri Krishna's answer also, we'll see, is not to be taken in a narrow sense, not just as some lust or greed, the sensual appetites, kama yesha, krodha yesha. When Sri Krishna says, that statement also has vast significance. Reflecting or contemplating on these verses give to us such a wonderful diagnostic report of our own life, how we have been living. And in that sharp and clear understanding of the disorder in our life, order will emerge. Noticing disorder is the first, if not the last step towards order. We must notice. Most people don't know what is going on in their life. They are driven by urges. So, this chapter, in fact, has so many wonderful insights that the introduction itself can take several hours, but we will not go to that length. I must say that one of the emphasis areas of this third chapter is reflected pretty early in the chapter when Arjuna says, why should I be in karma if jnana gives me moksha? Why not I go straight to jnana? Sri Krishna says, karma is unavoidable. Karma is very, very essential for the vast majority of people. He praises karma, and then in a verse that Mahatma Gandhi was deeply touched by, he says, Karyam karma samachara, do perform well your duties, do not neglect. If some hardship is involved in it, if there is some discomfort involved in discharging your duties, do not on that count shirk your duties. For heaven's sake, go through those hardships, that discomfort, and do your duty. And what especially touched Gandhi was the first part of the 19th shloka, Tasmad asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara. The word asaktaha made Mahatma Gandhi go into raptures. He said, ooh, this is the solution to so much of psychological suffering of mankind. If only one learns Anasakti Yoga. Gandhi's commentary on the Gita was eventually titled Anasakti Yoga, rising straight away from the 19th shloka of chapter 3, where Sri Krishna says, Asaktaha karma kuru. Asakta is adjective, asakti is attachment, anasakti is the noun that represents that state of mind, where you are enthusiastically doing your duties like anybody who is attached does, but in your heart, and you know it best, you really do not depend upon the outcome. Work for a project with full dedication, but do not depend on the outcome. The outcome depends on so many factors after all. Recognize that. See the larger picture. Do not blame yourself if your project fails. Do not be proud about yourself if the project succeeds. The outcome, success or failure, was not decided, determined by you only. Many factors went into this matter. So, asaktaha karyam karma samachara. And I'm going back and forth. There was this, or there is this 30th verse, which was very dear to Pujya Swami Chinmayanandaji. Yesterday was his 28th Aradhana day. That means 28 years ago, he left his body in San Diego, California. And remembering him, I must say, when he spoke on this 30th verse, where it is said, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jwaraha. When he spoke on it, he was seen to be even more inspired than otherwise. Swamiji, for some 40 years, 1950 to 1993, correct, about 42, 43 years, relentlessly spoke on the Vedanta. And he began with Upanishads, but within a couple of years, it was Bhagavad Geetā for which he got to be known. People looked at him as a champion of Bhagavad Geetā. Some media used a modest expression when he passed away in 1993. One of the major newspaper death, Gita's foot soldier passes on. They called him the foot soldier. That doesn't reduce his greatness. In fact, it has a beautiful meaning. Foot soldier means someone who reaches the masses, who mingles with people, rather than remaining away or at some height, expecting people to come to him. Pujya Swamiji went town to town, from city to city, everywhere where people welcomed him, he said, and he went and spoke. So why was this 30th verse so dear to him? For among some of his favorite teachings, Swamiji was very keen on highlighting the need to be in the present. In this verse, as we will elaborately see later, he found through the word nirmamaha, dismissal of the past was meant. Because all mamatva, this is my house, this is my family, these are my books, and so on, is rooted in memory. So nirmama is dismissal of the past. Nirashihi is dismissal of anxiety for future. And yudhyasya vigatajvaraha is the emphasis on letting go of any tension in the present too. Therefore, without regretting the past, being anxious about future, and not to be nervous about how will I do this now. This seems to be a bit challenging piece of work that has come to me, and so on. Take a deep breath and do well. The other day when P.V. Sindhu won the bronze medal in Tokyo Olympics, she later gave a statement. For this match, I had to silence all my emotions, she said. That was significant. For she had lost in an earlier match and therefore could not go to the finals. So in the quarterfinals she won. So in semifinals she lost. Now she had to fight for the bronze medal. Gold and silver were no more possible. So it was painful, for in the previous Olympics she had got silver medal. So silver is gone, gold is gone. Maybe she was hoping to make it to gold this time, but leave alone gold. silver also is gone. So there was sorrow in her bosom. But she frankly said, in this match, I had to silence all my emotions. And that is yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. As though nothing had happened, and not thinking about the glory of the previous Olympics where she got silver medal, and not anxious about how her career will be in future. That is nirmamaha, nirashihi, vigatajvara, yudhyasva. But all said and done, how is that possible? Whether you believe in God or not, an intuitive insight into your being essentially divine, essentially free, your essence, your essential existence is not shackled by the past or future. So it is not any brainwashing that we do in karma yoga. Rather, it is being with truth. The truth of our existence is none of us needs to cling anymore even to an iota of the past. None of us needs to think about future. Past and future are the mischief of the mind. Mystics or some eloquent speakers even put the truth in a language. There is no tomorrow. There is a certain piece of interview in the United States by Good Morning America, a particular program of certain channel that comes every morning over there. And the representative of that Good Morning America comes to Osho. By then, I think Osho had already moved in United States, though later on things went haywire and unfortunate. But at that time, he was recognized as a very sensational new guru from India. In that interview, to put it briefly, he makes this statement. When the interviewer asks about some future plans, tomorrow and so on, he says, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. The present moment alone is the truth. So that is Osho's style of putting the truth. He did throw wonderful light on Gita and the Vedanta science. So we have such verses. I must draw your attention to another great teaching in this third chapter, that is no other than Yajna. Yajna, or as some people pronounce it in the north especially, Yajna. So what is Yajna? Not just the fire ritual. That also is a form of Yajna, but in a broader sense, Yajna is whenever we engage in service-minded activities, where our emphasis is on giving, not collecting. And what is more, as Pujya Chinmayanandji used to highlight, to do so, we sync our differences and work together in what they call cooperative endeavor. And Sri Krishna says, all work, all actions except yajna bind you. Yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. He says in a powerful verse, in fact, that should be enough warning for any of us to stop being selfish. But our sanskaras are so strong, we don't listen. Sri Krishna has called a spade a spade. Yajnarthat karmanaha anyatra. Other than work in the selfless spirit, no escape. You do even a little of selfish activity, you have created a bondage for yourself. You are bound. you are stuck. You have to pay for it. As in Hindi, in North, they say, iska कीमत चुकाना पड़ेगा. You have to pay a price for this. You may say, one last time, I'll just grab this. And doesn't matter whether others suffer or not. One last time, I'll enjoy this for my personal sake. So this I, me, and my, gross or subtle pleasures that we take to ourselves, shutting our eyes to either our duty or to some moral aspect of the matter or to the disservice we might be doing to X or Y, that becomes bandhana. Not only Hinduism, even Buddhism talks about the bondage created by karma. The Buddha said, your karma follows you like shadow follows the person walking. So there is much talk about adding to our karma or subtracting. And karma yoga is the great art of subtracting. Day after day, you subtract from the baggage of karma that you have upon your shoulders. And when the baggage is fairly light, you are fit to graduate to the Jnana Yoga. So, Yajna is introduced. Do Yajna, and Devas will be pleased with you, gods, and they give you a lot of rewards. You make Devas happy. Devas make you happy. Making each other happy, let there be prosperity. Let that lead to prosperity for everyone. Such wonderful thoughts. So thus this chapter 3 is the chapter to be studied by people in the thick of activities. Chapter 3 is the chapter to be studied by service organizations like Rotary Club, Lions Club, Junior Chamber, and Red Cross, and so many. All of them, if they pick up a few points from chapter 3, they will find whatever they are doing so much more meaningful. Now, I said a while ago that though jnana, the advanced phase of the soul's journey to liberation, is not the theme of this third chapter, there are 4 or 5 verses, or maybe 1 or 2 more indirectly, which are pointers to jnana, which is Sankhya. In the second chapter itself, we saw, in fact, in verse 36 or so, Yesha tebi hita sankhye, no, not 36, 39. Second chapter 39, it was said, Yesha tebi hita sankhye. This matter of the indestructible, ever-free, pure self is called Sankhya. All this, where he had said Najayate, Mriyate, etc., is Sankhya. Yesha te abhihita sankhye buddhihi. Yoge imam aduna shranu. Now listen to yoga. And he introduced karma yoga. So Sankhya is the advanced phase. Yoga is the earlier phase. We have to start with yoga and then graduate into Sankhya. Start with Nishkama Karma and graduate to Jnana Yoga, that is contemplation on the pure self or Brahma and so on. Yoga Shastra leads to Brahma Vidya. In umpteen ways, Bhagavad Geetā brings forth this. So we take a quick look at which are those verses where in this third chapter there is in fact a hint or more than a hint to Jnana Yoga. in the verse 17, suddenly Sri Krishna makes a departure from his strong emphasis on karma, kartavya, duty, etc. Suddenly in verse 17 he says, well, whatever I have been saying, that you should not leave karma and go away, you must stay put in selfless service, all that does not apply to some people who may be a minuscule percentage of the number of people, and they are called Atmaratihi, Atmatruptaha, Atmani eva Santushtaha. So 1 in a million actually has no selfishness, no selfish desire, no personal desire, which doesn't mean he is dull or he is sleepy. He is wide awake, but he has undergone an unbelievable transformation. He does not want to become famous. He does not want to show to somebody who he is. He is no more interested in settling score with somebody. He is happy in himself. Atmaratihi, Atmatruptaha, content in himself. Atmanieva Santushtaha, delighting in himself or herself. So for that 1 in a million, all this, you must work, don't stop working, come on, get up, get going, etc. don't apply. Tasya karyam na vidyate. So how wonderful, how fair Lord Krishna does justice to the total picture. He doesn't make a sweeping remark that 100 out of 100 have to stay put in karma. There is an exception, but be doubly sure whether you have arrived there. If you have reached that height of inner evolution, yes, you not only may go for Jnana Yoga, you must go for Jnana Yoga. That is the teaching. Secondly, in verse 22, he again says about himself, having emphasized so much on karma, karma has to be taken up, karma should not be given up, etc. About himself, he says, now let me tell you a secret, Arjuna. I really have no duty at all. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. There is nothing I haven't got, seeking which I must work. Na anavaptam. There is nothing that I must get. Na avaptavyam. But the punchline is the last quarter of that shloka. Though I have no duty at all, I don't need to work at all. Varte eva cha karmani. Varta eva cha karmani. I anyhow work. So Pujya Srinmayananji used to say, the unwise work for happiness, seeking happiness. The wise work out of happiness, not for happiness. They don't seek happiness, they are happy either way. But out of that happiness, they work. Their life is a celebration right away, without postponing the moment of celebration. They find joy in work itself, not when the results come by. So, making his own case, describing his own case, he says, I don't need to work at all. Therefore, he is, 1 in a million, 1 in a billion. Sri Krishna is above all. He talks about himself. Then very clearly in verse 27 also. So among 43 verses of this chapter, there are some 4 or 5 which make a departure, which make a digression and touch upon those who are already on the advanced phase. Why make that departure? The idea is every chapter of Bhagavad Gita pretty much is complete in itself. Though this is Karma Yoga, there is a little bit of glimpses into Jnana Yoga. And somewhere else, predominantly the teaching may be Jnana Yoga, but some glimpses into Karma. And every chapter has some glimpses into Bhakti. The 30th verse, which I already read, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya. So, offer all your action to God. God, it is you who are making me do it. It is you who will decide whether this work will succeed or fail. It is you who, in fact, at every step, make me decide this way or that way. It is you who anyhow are holding my hand and leading me step by step. Most of the time I don't recognize it. Most of the time I don't notice it. But the truth is, it is you only who is running the show. That is called Ishvare Karmani Sanyasya. That is Bhakti. So if you ask me, show me a place where Bhakti is taught, devotion is taught in chapter 3. There may be a few others too, but 30th verse is a shining example. Ishvare sarvani karmani sanyasya kartavyam kuryat. And what about yoga? What is yoga after all? The Patanjala yoga is mainly marked by Sanyama. Yoga means self-control. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. And does chapter 3 talk about yoga? Of course it does. Towards the end, after blaming kama, selfish desire born of utter ignorance, Sri Krishna goes into an emphasis on Indriya Sayama. Tasmatvam indriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahihenam jnana vijnana nashanam, and so on. We have indriyani paranyahu, and so on. Indriya Sanyama is talked about. He says, Indriyas are attached to Indriya Vishaya. That is a fact. But that doesn't mean that you have to go by them. So, giving beautiful examples, how karma covers our spiritual, spiritual essence, how lust, greed, desire, vendetta, all these actually cover the understanding how we actually are ever free. Sri Krishna says, Indriyani adau niyamya. Control it all, starting with Indriya Sanyama. Gives a hierarchy of Indriyas, Manaha, Buddhihi. The whole chapter ends with the expression Sanstabhya. Evam buddhehe param buddhva Sanstabhya Atmanam. That is the smell of yoga. So if you carefully notice, every chapter has all the 4 celebrated paths of Sanatana Dharma. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. They are covered. Therefore, it is in that sense that in this chapter, titled as Karma Yoga, we do have some 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 verses on Jnana Yoga. So what does this 27 say? 27 explicitly says, you are not the doer at all. This is not in the discipline of Karma Yoga. In Karma Yoga, you have a sense of, I am the doer. You always ask, what is my duty here? What is the right thing for me to do here? What is it which I should avoid? And what is it which I should go for. This is Karma Yoga's bunch of FAQ, frequently asked questions. But making a departure in 27, Sri Krishna says, all those questions are irrelevant because you are not the doer at all. Then who is the doer? Prakrutehe kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. It is Prakriti who does everything. Very cleverly, Sri Krishna keeps him also out. He says to every one of us, neither you guys are the doers, nor I am the doer. You, I, we are witnesses, Sakshi. Then who is doing? Prakriti. Prakriti made of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. He is constantly doing everything. And you are free, I am free. I know I am free and you guys don't know you are free. That's the only difference. Nobody does anything. Or in that, maybe it is black English or so there's another way of talking in the United States. Nobody does nothing here. That's how double negative they use. According to the more accepted grammar, nobody does nothing means everybody does something. But in this black English or some other kind of English, you have nobody does nothing means nobody does anything. Let's not go into language. Who then is at the center of this doership? Ahankara. Ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. And to do justice, I said about 5. Let me mention the last verse also where the hint to the highest knowledge is given. The last verse of chapter 3 talks about realizing that which is above even buddhi. Kathopanishad talks of 7 levels. Indriyebhya parahirthartebhyascha param manaha manasastu para buddhi. Buddher atma mahan paraha mahata param avyaktam avyaktat purusha paraha purushanna parang kinchit sa kashta sa paragati. There are 2 mantras in Kathopanishad. There, starting with the indriyas, then sense objects, then mind, total mind, the unmanifest, etc. Finally, that pure Brahman is called Purusha. But Lord Krishna simplified matters. Upanishads simplified and expressed in a more recent language, not some ancient language where the words had some other meaning. More recent language. Gita has such a language that even today, after thousands of years, people find Gita pretty easy. The Sanskrit of Gita is pretty easy. The Upanishadic language is difficult. So the master of simplification, Sri Krishna, actually made this into just 4 levels. 7 was trimmed into 4. Indriyani paranyahu, indriyebhya param manaha, mastu para buddhi, yo buddhe paratastu saha. 4. Start with indriyas, mind, buddhi, then that highest truth. This inspired Pujya Swami Chinmayananji to make his BMI chart. B including indriyas, M is manaha, I is intellect, buddhi, and Om, above all, Om. And he carried that BMI chart all over the world. The inspiration for that BMI chart, which became synonymous with the Gita Jnana Yajnas. In fact, there used to be a little bit of problem. Some of us disciples, some juniors, used to give sometimes lectures without using BMI chart. And in any organization, there is what is called old guard, some old timers who had met, let us say, the founder, in this case, Swami Chinmayananji, in the 50s, before even some of us were born. these ladies and these men had met Swamiji, spent time with him, and then taken note of the fact that he was using BMI chart. So when some of his younger disciples were not using BMI chart, this old guard even complained. They thought this is unacceptable. He is Swami Chinmayananda's disciple. And see, he doesn't use BMI chart. Chantam papam. This is aparada. This is, that is so silly really. But their emotions are like that. All of us have our own emotions. We hold something very important, which may not really be important, but for us it is important. So the old guard was very uncomfortable when people did not use the BMI chart, or some people went more into some Shānkara Bhāshya. They said little Shānkara Bhāshya is okay, but she or he should primarily stick to what Gurudev had said and so on. So we respect their devotion, we respect their great feeling for the founder, for Gurudeva, as we call him. But they should not be so rigid really, as long as there is no injustice to the spirit, to the tattva, to the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma. Noble values, great truths of the Vedanta have to be conveyed, and everybody employs his own way after all. So I wish to say that in the last verse, how is there a scent of Brahma Vidya? Sri Krishna says, Buddhehe param buddhva. Upon knowing what is beyond thought, what is beyond Indriya, Mana and Buddhi. So knowing the supreme truth is Jnana Yoga. So the last verse doesn't use the lebanta, as they call it, the indeclinable form. Krutva. Krutva means doing, having done. The last verse says Buddha. Buddha is upon knowing. So on the long road to freedom, we let go of our sakama karma, selfish work. And the first phase of being spiritual is nishkama karma. Let's call it point A to point B is nishkama karma. Point B to point C, C is the end, is jnana. So point A to point B is all about doing with the right outlook. Point B to point C is not about doing, it is about knowing. So jnana. And the last verse with that one significant word, buddhva. Evam buddhehe param buddhva. Then samstabhyatmanam atmana is Raja Yoga. Jahi shatrum mahabahu. Kill your enemy inside. That lust, that greed, that selfishness, that upmanship, that tendency to dominate, or that weakness of letting everybody dominate over you, whichever way, all of them are a big problem in human behavior. But the final panacea, the remedy for everything is Atmajnana. So at random, I have gone up and down this chapter 3 to give you a picture of how mainly karma yoga is taught here, and there are hints towards jnana yoga, bhakti yoga and raja yoga also. So let us pause here. We made a beginning with the third chapter on this day, August 4, 2021. In this 52nd class on Bhagavad Geetā, aired on YouTube. We will take up in the next class fairly long introduction by Adi Shankara. And as I always said, please do not underestimate or do not regard it as some unnecessary logic and stuff. No. It is never irrelevant. On the contrary, you want to really get an insider feeling for this Vedanta, how to carefully understand what Shankara is saying. It is eternally relevant. As long as there is a bit of a confusion in our mind about our identity, Shankara says in his Samuchaya Khandana is very relevant. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.